You wake on an ordinary morning to a silence that is somehow too complete. No traffic, no voices, no hum of the world outside your window. You tell yourself it is nothing, but some old animal part of your brain already knows that something is deeply, terribly wrong. You step outside and the street is empty. Not quiet, not calm, but empty. Cars sit abandoned mid-lane with their doors hanging open, a coffee still steaming on a cafe table, and there is not a single living soul anywhere in sight. You shout hello until your voice cracks, and the only answer is your own echo rolling back off the buildings. You bang on doors, you check the houses, you dial every number you know, every single call rings out into nothing. You pinch yourself, you splash cold water on your face. You wait to wake up from what simply has to be a dream. But the silence does not break, and slowly the impossible truth begins to settle over you like a cold grey fog. For now at least, the lights still work. The fridge still hums, the taps still run, the screens still glow with frozen half-finished moments. The great machines of a vanished world keep running on, waiting patiently for masters who are never coming back. By nightfall, you have accepted the first impossible fact of your new life. As far as you can tell, you are the only living person left on the entire planet. 8 billion people are simply gone, and the night has never once been this dark. You refuse to believe you are truly alone until you have proof. So you begin to search, methodically, desperately, building by building and street by street, certain that somewhere out there, somehow, someone else must have survived this too. You walk through silent shopping malls, deserted offices and echoing train stations. You leave notes on doors and scrawl messages across walls. Anything to say that you are here, asking if anyone is. The empty buildings swallow your words without a sound. You take whatever car you like, the keys still waiting in 100 ignitions, and you drive out of the city to search further. The highway stretches ahead of you, perfectly empty, an open road with absolutely nowhere left that it needs to take you. Town after town tells you the same impossible story. Doors hang open, meals sit half-eaten on tables, children's toys lie abandoned in the yards. Everywhere is the evidence of a life interrupted, and nowhere is a single living person to be found. Weeks pass on the road, and slowly you stop shouting hello when you enter a new place. You stop expecting any answer at all. The fragile hope that kept your feet moving begins very quietly to curdle into something far heavier. And then, one grey and ordinary morning, you finally say the words out loud to no one at all. You are the last person on Earth. Saying it does not make it any more real, but then again, nothing ever could. Something strange happens once the searching finally stops. The crushing weight lifts just slightly, and a wild new thought creeps quietly in. If you really are the only one left, then every rule, every wall, and every locked door in the world now means absolutely nothing. You walk into the finest restaurant in the city and cook yourself an impossible feast. You sleep in the penthouse of the grandest hotel. You drive the supercar straight off the showroom floor. For the very first time, the entire world belongs to you and you alone. You stand alone before the most famous paintings in all of history, close enough now to touch them. You sit on thrones behind the velvet ropes. You hold treasures that millions once queued for hours just to glimpse, and there is no one to stop you and no one to share it with. You fill a bag with cash from an open bank vault, and then you start to laugh because the money is just paper now. Gold, diamonds, fortunes that men once killed for, all of it is suddenly worth exactly nothing in a world with no one left to want it. You blast music through a stadium's speakers and dance alone in the middle of an empty field. You set off fireworks just for yourself. And for a little while, the freedom is genuinely intoxicating, and you almost manage to forget the silence waiting underneath it all. And that is the catch you cannot ever escape. There is no one to see the feast, no one to envy the car, no one to laugh or clap or even shake their head at you. Slowly it dawns on you that everything you do now happens in a theater with no audience at all. A few weeks in, it happens without any warning. The power grid, with no one left alive to tend it, finally dies. The lights flicker once and then go out across the whole city at once. and the comfortable modern world you always took for granted goes dark for good. The taps cough and run dry. The internet, already a graveyard of frozen pages, finally goes black. Every convenience that kept you comfortable is gone. And for the first time you truly understand how completely you depended on millions of hands you never once saw. The whole game changes overnight, from freedom to survival. You cannot simply take whatever you want anymore, you have to plan. Food, clean water, warmth and safety, the basic things your ancestors fought and died for, are suddenly your full-time job all over again. The shelves are still full, but you do the math and your stomach drops. Fresh food rots within days, the frozen food is already thawing, and even the cans and packets will not last a single lifetime. One day, you realize with a chill, you will have to grow your own. Then the seasons turn, and the deep cold comes with no heating left to push it back. You learn to chop wood, to board the windows, to huddle by a fire in a mansion you can no longer keep warm. The empty world is breathtakingly beautiful, and it is quietly trying to kill you. The fantasy is well and truly over. You are not the king of the world. You are a single fragile animal trying to stay alive on a planet that no longer cares in the slightest whether you do. And the hardest part you are about to learn is not the cold or the hunger at all. The very hardest part, it turns out, is the silence. Not the absence of noise, but the absence of voices, of being seen, of mattering to another living mind. The quiet grows so heavy and so total that you start talking to yourself, just to hear a human sound again. You start talking to things that cannot answer: a photograph, a shop mannequin you drag home and prop at your table, a face you draw onto a wall, anything at all to pretend, just for one fragile moment, that you are not completely and utterly alone. You find yourself aching for things you never once noticed before: the murmur of a crowd, a stranger's nod on a busy street, the simple, ordinary miracle of a face that is not your own. You would trade the entire empty world for one boring, forgettable conversation. There are days you do not get out of bed at all, days when the silence simply wins, days you stand on a high ledge and wonder honestly and quietly whether there is any point in going on. The will to survive, you are learning, needs a reason, and yours is wearing dangerously thin. But each time, something small reaches out and pulls you back. A sunrise, a stray dog you have not met yet, a stubborn animal refusal to be the very last light to go out. You do not always understand why you keep going. You simply, somehow, do. To survive the silence, you slowly build a life out of small rituals. You wake with the sun, you tend your fire, you mark each passing day on the wall. Structure becomes a kind of lifeline, a quiet way to stay human when there is no one left to be human with. As the months stretch into years, the world you knew begins to vanish beneath a slow rising tide of green. Vines climb the skyscrapers, roots crack the highways wide open, and grass pushes up through every street. Nature, it turns out, was only ever waiting for you to leave. And with the green come the animals. Deer graze in the old town square, wolves trot calmly down the high street. Birds you have never seen before nest inside the dead traffic lights. The city that once belonged to 8 billion people now belongs entirely to them. For the first time in all of human history, you are not at the top of the food chain in your own city. A pack of wild dogs watches you from a shadowed alley. You learn to move carefully, to read the wild, to remember that you too are meat now, just like everything else. Strangely, the planet has never looked more alive. The rivers run clear again, the sky is a color you had almost forgotten, and the nights blaze with stars that no city light can drown. The earth is healing, beautifully and quickly, and you are the only one left alive to see it. It is the cruelest joke of them all. You are surrounded by a paradise more beautiful than humanity ever truly deserved, and there is not a single other person alive to turn to and say, "Look at this." Beauty, you slowly discover, is almost unbearably lonely when no one is there to share it. But you survive, because that is simply what your kind has always done. You learn to grow food, to hunt, to fix and build and endure. The soft, modern man you used to be is gone, and in his place now stands someone harder, quieter, and far more alive than you ever were before. Years deep into your solitude, on an utterly ordinary day, you see something that stops your heart stone cold. Far across the ruined and overgrown city, rising thin and grey into the evening sky, is a single column of smoke. And smoke means fire, and fire means that someone lit it. Your hands begin to shake. After years of being utterly, brutally certain that you were the last, the impossible question roars suddenly back to life. Could there really be someone out there? Could you, after absolutely everything, not be alone after all? You do not even stop to think it through. You grab a bag, abandon the home you spent years carefully building, and set off across the wild city toward that smoke, moving faster and feeling more alive than you have in years. Hope, you are about to relearn, is a powerful and a dangerous drug. As you travel, your mind races wildly between heaven and terror. What if it is a family, a whole community, a real second chance? What if it is dangerous, someone you could never trust? You find that you do not care. After all this time, even the worst company would be better than none. For 2 long days you chase that thin thread of smoke through overgrown suburbs and silent reclaimed forests, barely sleeping at all. You rehearse what you will say. You imagine their faces, and you let yourself, for the first time in many years, truly and completely hope. On the 3rd day, you finally crest the last hill, your heart hammering hard against your ribs, and you look down toward the source of the smoke at last. And what you are about to find down there will decide absolutely everything about the rest of your life. Below you is a wildfire, sparked by lightning days ago, smoldering its slow way through the dry summer hills. There is no camp, there is no family, there is no fresh start waiting. Just nature, indifferent and alone, doing exactly what it has always done. The disappointment hits you so hard that your knees simply give out beneath you. You sink to the ground and you grieve, not only for the people who were never there, but for the version of you that let himself believe, for the first time in years, that he had finally been saved. The walk home is the longest of your entire life. Every step away from that smoke is a step back into the truth you had let yourself forget. That you are, and that you will always remain, the last person on earth. And this time, there is no searching left to do. But something is different by the time you finally make it home. You cried out the very last of your hope on that hill, and in the strange hollow that it left behind, a quiet, hard-won kind of peace begins, very slowly, to take root and grow. You stop scanning the horizon. You stop leaving notes for people who are never going to read them. You stop living and waiting for a rescue that is simply never coming. And you start, at long last, to actually live the only life that is genuinely yours. It is not happiness exactly, but it is something solid and real. You are now the last keeper of everything humanity ever was. Its music, its books, its memories. And you quietly decide that as long as you still draw breath, none of it will ever be truly gone. And so the years go quietly by, far more of them than you ever bother to count. The tally marks on your wall give way eventually to the deepening lines on your own face. The young man who woke to that first silence is gone now, and an old one has slowly taken his place. You spend your days preserving everything that you can. You copy out books by hand, you maintain the great quiet museums, you tend the art and the crumbling monuments. You become a one-man civilization holding the entire memory of mankind together by nothing but sheer stubborn will. But you cannot hold back time forever. The buildings you grew up among crumble and fall, the cities soften and sink into hills of green. Mile by mile and year by year, almost every trace that humanity was ever even here is gently, patiently erased from the earth. So you decide to leave something behind, even if no one ever comes to find it. You carve your story into solid stone. You bury the very best of what we were in places built to last, a message in a bottle, thrown with all your strength into a vast ocean of time. Some nights you lie awake and quietly wonder whether any of it even mattered, the billions of lives, the love and the war and the art. If there is truly no one left to remember it, then were we ever really here at all? You do not have an answer, You only have the carving. And yet, in the very end, you find that you are not bitter at all. You were given something no human in all of history ever had, the whole world and all the time in it, and a front-row seat to the quiet, beautiful return of the living earth. It was a lonely gift, but it was a gift. And then, on one perfectly ordinary morning, you wake and you simply know that this is the last day. Your body is tired now in a way that no amount of sleep can ever fix. But you are not afraid. You made your peace with the great silence a very, very long time ago. You spend your final hours walking slowly through your world one last time. The garden you grew with your own hands, the art you saved, the wild green city that became your only companion. You say a quiet goodbye to every part of it, and somehow it feels like more than enough. You climb to the highest place that you can still reach, exactly the way you did on that very first impossible night, and you look out over the silent, thriving earth. 8 billion people once lived and loved and died here, and you were the one chosen to gently turn out the lights. You sit down in the warm last light of the day, and you let your eyes fall gently closed. There is no fear now and no panic, only the soft sound of wind and birds and a whole world breathing on without you. The last human heartbeat slows, and then, very gently, it stops. And the earth, which never once truly needed you, simply goes on. The sun rises the very next morning on a world with no one left alive to name it. The rivers run, the forests grow, the stars wheel slowly overhead, and the long green silence settles in at last, for good. So before you ever wish for a world without rules, without crowds, without a single soul to answer to, remember the man who got exactly that. The last person on earth. The only question left is this: if it were you, how would you live your final, lonely chapter? Subscribe and tell me whose life we should live next.